on the face of the earth. Many people recognize these words from Lou Gehrig's goodbye speech at Yankee Stadium on July 4th, 1939. At the time, no one would have known how famous the speech would come to be, because not one reporter or cameraman captured the speech entirely. It has been referred to as the Babe Ruth dress of baseball. It is so simple, yet elegant, said with such modesty that is seldom seen nowadays. His words resonate with anyone who has ever played or watched baseball. No one knows for certain everything Lou said on that day. The only thing that has been universally agreed on is the first, second, and fourth sentences, which were caught on film. A mystery may lie behind his words, but one thing is true. A shy and dying Lou Gehrig gave the best farewell speech ever. May 2nd, 1939 was the day the Iron Man streak ended. After struggling to play for the first 8 games of the season, only having collected 4 hits and 28 at-bats, he took himself out of line, ending a record-setting 2,130 games played. He had been clumsy at home, falling and dropping plates. Everyone assumed he was just tired and needed rest, like anyone else who played that many games in a row. Finally, Lou said he could not hurt the team anymore. Yankees manager Joe McCarthy refused to take him out of lineup because he feared the reaction of the fans. Lou took his lineup card, scribbled out his name, and walked it out for the umpires at home plate, drawing an applause of 50,000 fans. Little did anyone know that would be the last time that Lou Gehrig stepped on the field as a player. A few weeks after Lou played his final game, Eleanor brought him to Dr. Hyden. Dr. Hyden of the Mayo Clinic knew as soon as he saw Luke walk in the door and shook his hand that he had ALS. ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, is a progressive neurodegenerative disease that affects nerve cells in the brain and spinal cord. It progressively degenerates the motor neurons in the spinal cord and brain, causing gradual loss of voluntary muscle movement, then death. The Mayo Clinic that treated Lou released his diagnosis to the public on June 19, 1939. Soon after, thought of an appreciation day for the Yankee great was rumored around the lands. It started with sports columnist Bill Coren, who was given the idea by his friend, Bill Hirsch. Soon the idea spread among other columnists far and wide. One suggestion was that Lou's Appreciation Day should be held at the All-Star game. When Yankee owner Ed Barrow caught wind of this, he immediately shut the idea down. He wanted the day to be for Gehrig and Gehrig only. He decided there was no better opportunity than the 4th of July when the Yankees played the Washington Senators in a doubleheader. Over 60,000 fans packed Yankee Stadium on that warm 4th of July day. In attendance were Lou's parents, wife, most of the players on the 1927 New York Yankees Murderers Row, Babe Ruth, Stan Musial, the mayor of New York City, and the U.S. Postmaster General. Gehrig stayed in the dugout the whole first game. Manager Joe McCarthy noticed how frail he looked and told multiple members of the team to watch him during the ceremony in case he would collapse. After the first game ended and the Yankees lost 3-2, they brought microphones to home plate. Current and former Yankees lined up along the foul lines, and Lou stood at the plate. A wide variety of well-wishers came to say nice things and give him gifts. Gehrig was loved by all and impacted so many. He is truly a man of great character. Out of all the gifts he received, he only brought one with him when he walked off the field. A silver trophy, 20 inches tall, with 6 baseball bats and an eagle on the top. On one side, his current teammates' names are engraved. On the other, read a poem. To Lou Gehrig. We've been through wars together. We took our foes as they came. And always you were the leader, and ever you played the game. Idol of cheering millions, records are yours by sheaves. Iron framed they hailed you, decked you with laurel leaves. But higher than that we hold you. We who have known you the best, knowing the way you came go, every human test. Let this be a silent token of everlasting friendship's gleam, and all we left unspoken, your palace and the Yankee team. The poem was written by New York Times sports columnist John Kieran by catcher Bill Dickey's request. Kieran was also Gehrig's neighbor. He would often stop by to see Lou Gehrig once he had become bedridden. And Lou told him one day, you know, sometime when I get, well, I have to have that handed to me. and I read it, and I believe it, and I feel pretty good. Of the notable speakers, there's Babe Ruth and Joe McCarthy. Babe had known to say derogatory things about Lou in his consecutive game streak, saying he needed to learn how to ride on the bench or go fishing. He said he needed to learn how to go fishing, this time as moral support. McCarthy had a father-son relationship with Lou Gehrig and found it just as hard, if not harder, for him to speak. After McCarthy had finished his speech, veteran sports writer Sid Mercer, who served as master of ceremonies, told the Yankees fans, Lou will not be coming on to make his speech. The thousands of fans refused and responded with chants saying, "We want Gehrig, we want Gehrig." So, Gehrig gave them what they wanted. For the past 2 weeks, you've been reading about the tough break I got. Yet today, I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth. I've been in ballparks for 17 years and received nothing but kindness and encouragement from you fans. Look at these grand men. Which of you would not consider it the highlight of your career to associate yourself with them, even for one day? Yeah, I'm lucky. Who wouldn't consider an honor to know Jack Gruber, also the builder of baseball's greatest empire, Ed Burrow, and to spend 6 years with that wonderful old man, Miller Huggins, then the next 9 with that outstanding leader, that smart student of psychology, and the greatest baseball manager of our day, Joe McCarthy. Yeah, I'm lucky. When the New York Giants, a team you would trade your right arm to beat and vice versa, sends you a gift, that's special. When everyone, down to the grounds crew, and those boys in white coats, remember you have trophies, that's something. When your mother-in-law takes sides with you and squirrels with her own daughter, that's something. When you have a father and a mother who work their whole lives so you can have an education and build your body, that's a blessing. When you have a wife who is a tower of strength and has more courage than I've ever dreamed of, that's the finest I know. So I close. I may have had a tough break, but I have an awful lot to live for. To this day is argued whether or not Lou prepared the speech himself. He was able to say it so clearly, so precise, remembering every person he wanted to thank. And yet the structure was unparalleled in how it was set up and formatted. According to his wife Eleanor in her book, My Luke and I, we had gone over what he would have said for his speech the night before, if he decided to give one. We wrote it down. We never rehearsed it, or we rehearsed it but never wrote it down. He said it was simple enough to remember. If you look at any other farewell speech, you will not find any as well written or structured. The speech revealed the man who Lou Gehrig was. Lou Gehrig's farewell speech is the greatest of all time, mainly because it was truly a farewell speech. Multiple professional athletes give farewell speeches, but never consider themselves lucky. When Magic Johnson got the HIV-virus, he never described himself as lucky. Players with season-ending injuries aren't as optimistic as Lou was that day, facing a life-ending illness. How can someone whose life was inevitably coming to an end consider themselves lucky? Lucky describes an optimistic view, perhaps coming from his faith or marriage. It was a retirement speech, yes, but it was also his going-away speech. The speech resonates because it speaks to everyone who's suffered an illness or lost a loved one. Gehrig says we shouldn't think about ourselves and whatever troubles we might have. Instead, we should think about all the good fortunes we've had in life. To die is to lose everything, everyone we've loved. But he looks at it from another angle and says death helps him see how he has been blessed with his family, his friends, his teammates, his career. He chooses life. He chooses optimism. 77 years later, Lou Gehrig and his farewell speech are still remembered. He was the Iron Horse on the field, batting career .340. But he batted 1,000 at being a man. He didn't try and say anything fancy, cry about his disease, or gloat about his accomplishments. He reflected on how lucky of a life he had. What can we learn from Lou Gehrig in his speech? To value what we've been blessed with, to enjoy what we had and while we had it. And it's not about our story or our speech, but what it contains. Questions?
John, would you share with this audience why you care about this topic?
Well, I am a baseball lover of the sorts, both as a fan, as a player, and I want to be a baseball broadcaster. So this thing, it hit me all over. That in high school, I was really involved with the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge and the movement, so I had something like that in my school. So it was just basically the perfect topic. And I hate the Yankees, but I love them.
But you rose above them.
Had to. Never knew the guy. Can't judge mine.
Are there any players today that you would at all equate with the character of this man?
In any professional sport or just baseball?
Any, I guess.
I would say Albert Pujols is he talks to the media more. I mean, back in that day, they really didn't have as much at all. Lou Gehrig had never spoken to the public, to like the reporters. They said he wasn't fit to be public speaking. But it's hard to compare that to anybody else nowadays. I would say Tom Brady too, because he's so humble about what he goes about, and they all talk about their teammates before him. Actually, I'm going to throw David Ortiz in there because he's my favorite player. So. Come on. There we go.
Do you think the part of being an athlete should require your personality and how you come off in the media? Should we be judging these athletes based on that, or should we be judging them specifically on their sports abilities?
Well, I mean, I think that breaks into two categories then. You're separating somebody's abilities from who they are. And on the field, we only see their athletic abilities or the passion they play with. In the media, you have guys that were that didn't know how to handle themselves, were very rude, but then you hear from teammates that they're the best clubhouse guy. It's hard to judge an athlete by how he reports to the media, because some people just can't talk in front of cameras or in large groups. I guess it goes along with his teammates, saying he was always the leader. He was not known as a leader by the media because Babe Ruth had just left, but then the rise of DiMaggio had just taken over.
John, this kind of calls to mind an older concern, question, controversy. I don't know if you've run across it yet or not, but there was I've forgotten who it was, but the media often sort of held athletes accountable for their behavior, and the basic statement was, look, the athlete said, I'm not a role model. How do you remember that? Do you know about it? How do you feel about that as again, someone who's a player, a lover of baseball, and interested in being a broadcaster?
I think that's also two different categories, because I liked a lot of players because of how kind they were, and then there are players I liked because I was similar to their playing styles and their abilities. So I was not a fan of Kenny Rogers, the pitcher, with how he acted with the media or anything like that. But he was a good pitcher. Now you take Mark Resselani. I'm going to go with older Cubs people, so maybe Mark Rizzoline, not the best player, but when it came to being a clubhouse guy and talking to the media, he knew how to handle himself. I think if you have a role model, I want that person to, their ability on the field and how they act there, to be as they are there. I want, if they're gonna be my role model, it's because I'm a baseball fan, a baseball player, and they're good people. It's not because they're playing a sport and getting paid millions. I think that was probably like 8 years ago, if I think, the role model.
I don't remember. Anybody else have a sense of that?
Yeah, but I remember that being said. And some movie stars will say the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
Just by what I do, not by who I am. Thank you, John. Oh, one more?
Yeah, one more.
Okay.
Okay, so given the fact that you are a baseball player and you want to be in the media and pretty much in the limelight, and you develop something that is a lot like Lou Gehrig's where it's going to be fatal, do you think you would have the same grace and poise to do something like Lou Gehrig did?
Honestly, no. If that's what makes his speech the best, I really wish I could have included this. There's a former All-Star who did not make it in the Hall of Fame. When he got the call, he was devastated. He was crying and he was distraught and all that. Yet, here's Lou Gehrig facing a life-ending illness, knowing that he's never going to play again. To have that poise, to have that optimism, and be able to carry himself the way he did that day, and not just that day. He remained the Yankees captain for another year and a half until he was bedridden. I don't know if I have the strength enough to do that, but I can only take him as my role model on that and follow his example.